I was wondering if, there's also this question, what is Aikido for you? But this is such a wide and such a, I think, also personal thing to ask. I don't know if you want
very nice of you to ask it in that way. No problem. For me, we lost to the dojo in Santa Barbara. I don't know if you knew about this. Back in 2007, our rent went from $1,200 a month to $6,500 a month. So we lost the dojo, and I didn't train for about 4 or 5 months. And it was the most boring and the most bland time. And, having a dojo, running a dojo, is very difficult. Anybody with their own dojo will tell you that. And there are days when I think, what am I doing? Why am I doing all of this? But then that was really good that we couldn't train for about 4 or 5 months because it reminded me. I guess, the reason that I do Aikido, I've answered that all different ways at different times in my development. And what it boils down to now, especially after seeing myself, taking a look at myself those months that I wasn't training, the answer in one way is just very simple, that I can't not train. Something's not right. The conversations aren't as meaningful, aren't as deep. The food doesn't taste as good. The sleep isn't so deep. The beer doesn't taste as good. So, at different times in my development, I've had other answers to that question, I would have said something like, keeps from all the way from the basic physical part of, I need the endorphin rush to, I take the lessons from Aikido of resolution, peaceful resolution. I try to inject them into other areas of my life when I'm having conflict with another person or within myself, all of that. Of course that's there too, but lately I think it's just so much more simple than that. Just like, I can't not do it. That's it. Yeah.
And there was also this vision of yours, as we're approaching our last few questions.
Mm-hmm.
You had this vision, help Aikido through the world. Can you give us...
Help Aikido.
Mm-hmm.
Help Aikido.
That was one of your visions.
Throughout the world? Trying to think. Let's see. Maybe I should bring that up on my email. I'm trying to remember exactly what I would have been saying. Do you remember where you got that from? Was it from me in an email or
an interview of yours or with you? And you were saying something like that, like help Aikido throughout the world. And I was just thinking you were probably meaning that it's something that goes beyond countries. It goes beyond mentality.
Yeah. Probably what I was saying is just, well, for example, last weekend I went down to Los Angeles. One of the instructors down there, Takeda Sensei, he got many instructors together to do a Japan benefit. And so a Japan Benefits seminar. So what it was we had an Aikido seminar with maybe 10 different instructors, and people paid to come join the seminar, and then we took that money and we sent it to Japan. So I think we raised like $4,000, and of course we teachers donated our time. We didn't get paid for it or anything. So that's one way that you could see, Aikido helping the world. So I believe that Aikido should make people compassionate. It should instill compassion in people and judgment, character. And so that's a good example of Aikido people being compassionate and helping others. And then, and another thing that was very nice about that was that, these teachers were from all different affiliations. And it's very sad when I see Aikido teachers, when I see infighting in Aikido. Aikido teachers, this Aikido teacher doesn't get along with that Aikido teacher. Isn't that a crazy sentence? Like, just that sentence, how can we not get along? That's what Aikido is. So I like how the borders, the barriers between Aikido groups are being broken down now. And so that's one thing. And if we break down those barriers in between our groups, then we can become more powerful in a number of ways. One of them, for example, this idea that we did in LA, we came together, students said, wow, all these different teachers, okay, they came, and then we were able to help the victims of the Japanese tragedies. And then the other way, helping Aikido throughout the world, first of all, Aikido people helping the world. I just believe that the more people who study this system of peaceful conflict resolution, I think the more people we have studying something like that, the better the world will be. So if more people learn how to resolve conflict peacefully, that's got to better the world. And then another thing that I might have been referring to when you saw this in a video was maybe I was talking about how I put a lot of stuff out on social media, a lot of videos and blog posts and everything, and I'm hoping a couple of different things from that, a few different things. One of them, the immediate reason that I do it is just is to support the Santa Barbara Dojo, so that people will see, oh wow, this is what Aikido is, that's why it's good, and then we've got these low-income families, hey, I'm going to make a donation. So that's great, it keeps our dojo going. The other reason that I put that out is that, again, the more we educate the public as to what Aikido is, which is not just slamming each other around, the more that will help other Aikido dojos. And then the more I put out information about how I made a nonprofit, how I keep the nonprofit going, these little hints are like when I say to people and when I meet people socially and I say I'm executive director of a nonprofit, and then I weave in this idea of Aikido. I hope that some of that stuff, some of that information helps other Aikido teachers to keep their dojos going. So I'm a born-again Aikidoka. I want to save the world. Maybe that's what I said. I want to save the world through Aikido. I've seen so many people make big changes in their life, big positive changes in their life, like the boy that you talk about. I've seen that happen, and I feel so much better when I'm doing Aikido that, it's, again, it's like I'm like a born-again Aikidoka. Yeah, you should do Aikido.
This would be sort of a perfect wrap-up for the whole interview, but I'm going to push it further to my last question.
Oh, okay.
You said at a certain point in our interview that you felt really good in Japan when people were calling you just Lia, and they didn't care where you were coming from,
right.
or your gender, or things like that. And I was wondering if you think it would be important for female aikidoka to have other female aikidoka as role models.
I remember thinking about this when I read through your questions. And I remember being surprised at myself when I thought, oh yeah, I remember when I was about Shodan or so. So, here's the answer, is that right now, for me, it doesn't really matter to me whether I have female role models in Aikido. And when I came up with that answer, reading your questions, that was my first thought. Like, it doesn't matter. A role model for me can be male, female, anything. And then I remembered when I first got to Japan, well, before I went to Japan, I was very excited about the possibility of training with a very high-level female practitioner. That was very exciting to me. And when I thought back on that, I thought, oh yeah, that's so interesting. And then while I was in Japan, I remember one time talking to my kohai. This is actually a very interesting story. I was Sandan at the time, and I was the highest woman in our organization. And I was very busy with my work. I had started an English school of my own. And so I was only going to class, at that point, I was going to class maybe twice a week, maybe even like 6 or 7 times a month. I don't really know, but my attendance was low. When I first got to Japan, I was just training every day, so there I was with this excuse that I'm so busy at work, I can't always get to the dojo, I have to work until 9 o'clock at night, or whatever. And so, one night when I did go to the dojo, she and I went out for beers, and again, I was third dan, and I was the top woman in our organization, and I had my beer, and I was saying to her, oh, we've got the Dai Senpai, the top guys in our organization. They're so inspirational. They're so fantastic. Their Aikido's incredible. And I'm going on and on and on. And I said, but why don't we have any women Dai Senpai? We need some women Dai Senpai. Why don't we have that? Oh, I wish we had that. Oh, God, And my kohai was just silent. She wasn't saying anything. And finally I noticed, and I quieted down, and I just looked at her like, like a dog goes like, oh, And she said, she had her head down, she was kind of quiet, and she said, in Japanese, she said, Anata, she said, you. It's you. And I was like, oh, and she goes, please come to the dojo more. And I just, I couldn't believe it. And it hadn't even occurred to me that there were women under me seeing me in the light that I wanted to have someone above me. And I was so moved and so touched. I'm getting chills right now telling you the story. And so then, after that, I made sure that I could finish my work in time to get to the dojo. wow, it just blew my mind. It's you. You are what you're talking about. And so, please come to the dojo more. Yeah, so any women who end up watching this video, if you're a lower rank, please let your higher ranked women, please let your female senpai know if you feel that way, first of all. And then your higher ranked women, don't forget that that's how a lot of our kohai feel. So, yeah. And let me give more to that then too. There's one thing though that I never understood. I know it's pretty popular, and I have very mixed feelings about it. On the one hand, I accept it because it seems so important for some women, but part of it I don't really like. This idea of women's class, women, Aikido class for women, or a women's Aikido seminar, where we're not allowing the men to come to that class. And I know that there are some women who feel very strongly that we should have these kinds of classes. And so I respect their opinion. I've never felt that way. But I think there's a danger. I have seen some women's classes where some of the participants only went to women's class. They never go to the other classes. And I think, to me, that is just against the principle of Aikido. I think, Aikido should be all-inclusive. Bo Sensei also didn't want it to just be Japanese. He said, we have to take this out. This can help the world. So that's the whole thing about Aikido is, to learn how to get along with everybody. And so maybe if you have a rape victim or a victim of abuse at the hands of a man, okay, it makes sense that maybe that person will want to do just women's classes. But I think the goal must be then to bring that person eventually, whether it's after 1 month or 5 years, the goal needs to be able to integrate that person into a co-ed Aikido class, a mixed gender Aikido class.